Porky's Barbecue in Apopka. I love it because they have so many delicious smoked meats. Are you a fan of the smoked meats?
Yes, I am. Steve has been doing this for so long that he's perfected it, and he does a damn good job smoking all the meats. And here's the thing. If you go to Porky's, you get a pulled pork sandwich. You get some dirty taters, some baked beans.
I've been sleeping on the dirty taters. I haven't had those. Actually, I don't think I'm allowed to say sleeping on the dirty taters. But whether it's the sloppy cow, whether it's I like the Cuban. They have like a thick cut pork, like a sliced pork Cuban. I know that they have those sirloin tips. They have one of the best steaks you're ever going to have in town. All the sides are delicious, and wash it down with a big old glass of iced tea.
Or they have White Claw, beer, Porky's and Apopka. They also do great catering. So I've used their catering services many times. Catered my son's first birthday party with Porky's Barbecue. And whether you have a tiny party, you just want to go pick up, hey, I got 15 people coming over to watch football, and you could pick, I like to do a pulled pork, a tray, and then just get those little Hawaiian rolls and do sliders. And just get some Porky's barbecue sauce. You get the mild to the triple X. And or if you have a gigantic event that you have 200 people, Porky's could bring his team down and cater the whole thing.
So you can do like pulled chicken, pulled pork, ribs,
gigantic parties,
brisket, and they can do weddings, big or small. Porky's can do everything for you. It's Porky's in Apopka.
Yeah, we're also doing an event there on Friday. A little meetup that Tony's hosting, and he's going to get you a bunch of different gift bags, and he's got some merch that we're going to give him. So if you want to head there on Friday, it's at 7 p.m. this Friday, and I got a bunch of BDMs coming out, and pick up some Tom and Dan merch and some stuff that we're giving away, and enjoy some delicious Porky's Barbecue in Apopka.
In the boy, the larynx and the vocal cords change so that his voice acquires the deeper pitch of a man's voice. The shoulders become broader, thighs grow longer, and the muscles become stronger. Hair begins to grow on the face, under the arms, and in the pubic area.
You are a man, and in taking on the role of the world's second greatest gender, you must adhere to A Gentleman's Guide to Manliness.
Welcome to A Gentleman's Guide. Tom Van.
Dan Dennis.
Steve Kramer.
We're talking about tacos off the air, but we're not going to talk about tacos on the show.
Not one more word about them.
Well, only because I have a tendency to want to talk about tacos on every single show, and that's not good. I have an obsession with tacos.
There's probably a cap out for taco talk.
I mean, there might be, but what's funny is every time we bring it up, I get just tons of emails from people that are like, they weigh in. So, obviously, it's a hot-button topic, but not for this particular
People very
show.
emotional about tacos.
I decided that we would jump right into voicemail messages, just get the old juices flowing and running and get back to normalcy. We have a tendency to say we're going to do voicemails,
and then we just get talking.
And then we don't. We never do them. So, here we go. Voicemail number 1.
Big Stephen Kramer. Kramer, it's awfully nice of you to open for D-Rug at the 10th anniversary, but I got to ask you one question. Could you take the lawyer hat off for just a minute? When the guys brought your keyboard out, you had the logo of the keyboard manufacturer, the make, model, serial number. You had painter's tape over all of it. Are you ashamed of Radio Shack, or are you afraid Radio Shack's ashamed of you? Come on, Kramer. I love you.
What?
Love you too.
Had the guy notice he had some electrical tape over?
Some really good eyeballs, I guess.
Why'd you have that, by the way?
That's kind of like a old musician's thing.
Like Kirk, our documentarian, he did that to everything, and he's putting gaffing tape on everything. Don't show the logos, and I just don't adhere to that anymore.
Yeah,
it's what I use. Yes, I use an Apple. Like, this is a MacBook. Yes, it is. I bought it with my own money.
He was doing it because he told me that if you ever wanted to sell any of your whatever you're producing, like a documentary or whatever, to anybody.
Yeah.
If there are any unlicensed logos in it, they won't buy it because they're afraid of getting sued. So the bigger companies are so afraid of lawsuits that even if it's ridiculous and there's no chance, I mean, well, there's always a chance, but even if there's unlikely that you get sued for showing like a Sony logo. And by the way, I think that changed too, where if there is logos in the background of whatever you're filming, it's a fair use thing at that point.
I don't know. Maybe it's a old school thing, but I have a philosophical objection to advertising a brand that is not paying for me to advertise them, and maybe I don't want to be their corporate shill.
But also, does anybody look at that piano and
that logo on a keyboard? If you've got a Korg or Roland or a Yamaha, whatever type of keyboard you have, I mean, they make them big because they know they're designed for playing professional gigs, and you know they're going to be seen, and they want them to be seen, and I just don't want to be a billboard. I've done that. Yeah. I don't want to do that.
I get it.
So, it's there's no really reason beyond you just don't want to.
Mo DeWitt chiming in. He says, last time I saw Kramer, he tried to put electrical tape over my eyes and mouth. That's very funny.
Did I?
You're trying to kill other lawyers in towns? I thought you only had beef with Dan.
That is my strategy.
I thought you only had beef with Dan Newlin.
I didn't want to let everybody.
Where are we at on our war with Dan Newlin? Are we good? Are we in a like a 5-day cease? 5-day ceasefire. Then we'll pull out all of the Tom and Dan troops, and then old Russia will sneak in. Let's do this one.
Hey guys, this message is for a gentleman's guide. My husband and I were just in Whole Foods, and we saw Steve Kramer. He was with his family, but he did have his Tom and Dan shirt on.
Did I?
We were conflicted whether or not to say hi or try to touch tips because he was with his family. So just wondering if it would have been okay, if he would have been bothered by us. Just let me know. I'll hang up and listen.
Always okay, right?
Okay, so it is okay.
Always okay. Although it is weird if I'm wearing the shirt and you know that I'm on a show, and then you ask, instead of being like, oh, I like you on the show, you say, oh, do you listen to Tom and Dan too? Because I don't want to have to like do the big time thing.
Is
or
that
whatever.
Insulting to you?
No, I don't care about that. It's just like, just say it.
I mean, is it a bit of an ego stinger to you to be a secondary character to like real stars like me and Tom?
No, because I'm on TV, so you know.
Yeah, but you're usually on TV playing the part of a nerd. Yeah. Nobody even watches that.
What's TV?
Hey there, guys. This is David. I was calling in for a gentleman's guide to manliness. Daniel, Tom, and Kramer. I hope you're all doing well. I've got a question for Kramer. In lawyer ads, like on TV or in movies or television shows, they've always got books behind them. They're all like, and they all seem to be like similar size, and they have the same binding and that kind of thing. But what are those books, or what are they supposed to be? Are they a real thing? Are they a movie thing? Do they have like case law in them? Are they like summaries of different cases or that kind of thing? Just kind of curious. I know I could probably find this out on Google, but I'd rather listen to Kramer explain it to me. Love the show, guys. Take it easy. Bye.
It's an interesting question.
So they should be, I mean, the reason they have books is because you're supposed to be learned and well-read if you're an attorney. You know, you have supposedly read many, many books, and also you utilize books for reference all the time, or at least you used to. And so there's an association there, and you know most lawyers have some sort of library that they reference for their for the work that they do. Obviously now a lot of that's online, but some of us that came of age before everything moved online still have a lot of books.
Is it a set of like case law or law books that are like an encyclopedia that they sell to lawyers? Like I know Bernie, our accountant, has like the standard bookcase of books that are tax law, and I guess they have to reissue them every certain years because things change or whatever. But it's like, I guess it's like the standard tax
That's what
law
my dad
books.
used to sell. He worked for Prentice Hall, Maxwell McMillan, Simon & Schuster, because they all changed hands or got absorbed. and then he would sell those books to somebody like Bernie, and then you would line them all up. And then once CD-ROMs came in, kind of took my dad's job, and that was it.
I used to sell books. I used to sell books too. So what they are is, it depends. There's all types of books. There's like I've got a set of books that is just legal forms. I've got a set of books that is annotated cases. I've got a set of books that is statutes. I've got books that are treatises on law or jurisprudence or political I guess analysis. So there's all types of different book sets, and they all have a different job to do.
But nowadays it's just a prop, right? Like, or do you actually use them? Like,
I mean, I still pull them.
Right?
I still pull them if I need to pull information that could be valuable to track the changes in statutes. If you've got books through the years, a lot of times it's easier online. But then again, I prefer reading like paper books. I had Kindle. I've had a Paperwhite. I've had all that, but I still prefer to read paper.
Is it? Could it be like antiquated as far as like the laws
Absolutely.
have changed? So
You'd have to keep up with your books to update, and that's what lawyers and law libraries used to do. Is every year there'd be a new edition, a new set of books that comes out, and it would give the latest information on new cases that came out, and you'd basically add a new volume to that library. So, like, for instance, one of them's Southern Reporter. It's a group of cases within a certain geographical area, and there's, multiple editions. There was a first edition, then when I was in law school, it became a second edition, and so on.
Why not just you? Is there a website that's like up to date all the laws, or like a some sort of like
an internet database?
Government
so
website.
That's exactly what took my dad's job.
There's a bunch of them. I mean, there's Google Scholar. There's the bar provides a free one called Fastcase. There's Westlaw. There's Lexis, and then Westlaw and Lexis and some of these companies, they're giant companies that have aggregated a lot of data. So they do, those companies provide background check services. They provide, case research. They provide forms. They provide all kinds of tools. Not that I'm advertising them, but that's just what they do.
Yeah. Huh.
Oh, LexisNexis. What's LexisNexis?
LexisNexis is a multifaceted information powerhouse, essentially. So if you want to do case research, you can do that. If you want to do background check, you can do that. That's
funny.
basically what we're talking about.
I remember my dad talking about that.
And they acquire companies,
like
too.
Like being a competitor, though, at the time. Because he went from, if I remember the way that it went, it was Prentice Hall, Simon & Schuster, Maxwell Macmillan, Research Institute of America, and then I think it dissolved. But that's how many different iterations it had of a publishing company for those things. And CD-ROM was the first thing that ever really came in that like changed the whole hey, I have a sea of tax guides is what they were called.
Yeah.
In fact, my mom still has a lot of them because my dad had so many he had to give to different clients that it was virtually impossible to get to not have some at your home. So when he passed away, I threw all of them out. It was just from volumes from 1988, 1989, hundreds of them.
Yeah, I worked for a company when I was in college called R.L. Polk, and they provided information, marketing information and demographic information on areas. So you could reverse phone book. Do searches by phone number instead of by name. You could find out, the number of people in a household or the median income in a household. They took all of that and they had it together. And I think they got acquired by one of those companies.
Books.
Yes.
Who likes them?
I love them.
Well, but I
have
like
many finely leather-bound books.
I can't.
You want to hear about books?
No,
Here
but
we go.
I cannot read on. I can't read on a Kindle. I can't read on an iPad. I just can't do it. Magazines, book. It has to be namely I like the hardbounds.
Yeah.
I mean, they're just they're just easier for me to read.
I collect the leather bound, so I'm with you.
Here we go.
Hey guys, I'm listening to A Gentleman's Guide, and y'all just started talking about comedy movies, and there's not many coming out. And Kramer was talking about that Wine Country one that I think is a Netflix original, but I may be wrong, and it's the one that's got Amy Poehler and Tina Fey, Maya Rudolph, and 8 other very big female comedian actresses right now. Kramer was talking about how it fell flat on its face. I think my wife watched it. I think she fell asleep, and she was like, yeah, it's not that great. I don't know. I'm not really calling about that. I'm not calling at all, but I'm not on your app for that. I was just going to say, anytime I see a movie that's got that many big names in it, I don't even bother watching it, because in my experience, when you get that many huge names together, it's just because you know this movie's absolute garbage, and you just want people to go out and see it. You don't care if they're going to be like, that was garbage, because you already got their ticket money, and you know with that many big names, people are going to be like, oh God, it's got to be good. So anytime there's a movie that's got more than like 5 huge stars in it, instantly don't see it. Do y'all think my theory's correct, that that's what they're doing anytime they do that?
I think it can go both ways, right?
Sometimes it's just friends, right? All those women are friends together, and maybe they just want to make a movie together.
Yeah, it's the Adam Sandler style, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's like I bring all of my famous comedian friends along with me. Mm-hmm. Like, what was the one? Was it Growing Up?
Grown-Ups.
Grown-Ups. That's
or Grown-Ups 2.
It's all his movies. He just hires
brings around the
Sometimes
crew.
you see movies with a good ensemble cast. It's great. I mean, Wes Anderson movies have all big names. I mean, Bruce Willis, Meryl Streep, Bill Murray.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, Gwyneth Paltrow, Ed Norton. I mean, and on and on, Angelica Houston, and on and on and on. And those movies are always great with that ensemble cast.
I'm always surprised when an actor or actress says, like, I read the script and I knew this movie was going to be awesome. And I'm like, really? You knew from the script? Like, there's so much that could happen between the script and the final product.
Almost sounds like a staged head coach reply.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, I knew from the minute that my agent gave me the script that it was going to be. You know, you're like, I don't know about that. Because there's probably some really good scripts out there that actually were cast incorrectly and ended up being
editing,
or ruined by the producers, or ruined by an indulgent director.
Yeah.
Editing's like the most important.
David O. Russell, that's like another great director who always has an ensemble cast. I mean, he always works with Bradley Cooper, Jennifer Lawrence, Robert De Niro in almost all movies since I Heart Huckabees, and those are always great movies.
I enjoyed that movie.
With I Heart Huckabees? Yeah, Lily Tomlin, Dustin Hoffman.
I like Lily Tomlin. I think she's
The Incredible Shrinking Woman.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I love that movie.
I forgot about that movie. Yeah, that was a good movie. Let's try this one.
Hey guys, I was listening to your gentleman's guide about why Brazil or Spain or France women's soccer team isn't as good as ours. The real reason is because no other country has Division I school sports as developed as we do here. So here there will be plenty of teams like UCLA, North Carolina, college teams that give girls free tuition and they develop them as players, whereas in Spain that does not exist. It does include for men's, there's Real Madrid and Barcelona and all those teams will have, baby teams, but only for men. So they get developed, but the development structure does not exist for women. Thanks, guys.
Never thought about that.
There's no development leagues at all for women in other countries. I find that hard to believe. There's got to be, right?
I think there are. Like, I know that for Arsenal ladies, which is really the only professional soccer team that I would follow that is female.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's the same as the men's academy system that you have in the EPL.
Yeah. Because our college
system can't be as large. There's no way.
Our college system for soccer for men has actually hindered our professional soccer players because they just don't play as much. They don't focus all on soccer like other. We've talked about this a million times about why the United States men's soccer team always struggles. Our best athletes go to every other sport, but for the women, we concluded that as far as professional sports, soccer is the number one for women in the United States, and they've catered to that. But we've often wondered why other countries that soccer is like a religion there, for instance, Brazil, a lot of European countries, why they don't have as good. And then
of a ladies' team, is that what you mean?
But then
because a lot of that comes down to funding, right? A lot of that's a money thing.
At the root of it, a lot of it comes down to, this guy's right, it comes down to having a good farm team, having good Division I schools. But that really is related to Title IX. So are you familiar with that? Either of you? So
I am not.
Title IX deals with the fact that you have to treat men's and women's athletics with equity at the college level. So typically that the schools and universities have interpreted that to mean that you have to offer a roughly equal number of scholarships to men and women on the whole. And what happens is the big three sports for men, football, basketball, and baseball, the numbers on those teams offset on the women's side. And for instance, I think there's 64 college scholarships awarded for men's football. Well, there's no parity on the women's side. There's no sport with that many scholarships available. I think the most is maybe volleyball or crew at maybe 14 or so. So that means that a lot of women's scholarships get offered in many of these sports, including soccer, right? And some of the other men's teams wind up, having their scholarships gobbled up by the football, basketball, baseball.
That's interesting.
Yeah, and equipment's like another example. So, like if you have a men's hockey team and a women's hockey team, you're really supposed to give equal funding to the equipment or make sure they have comparable equipment.
Correct.
So our question was always like, why isn't there a better Brazilian women's soccer team? Is it just because the pool of athletes they have to choose from is less than the United States? Obviously,
we have a better farm team through our Division I schools, right? We have women that go to college and receive scholarships for football, and it's a vibrant, bustling program. And if you're in high school sports and you're looking at, hey, what's an opportunity for a scholarship? Soccer is one of them. Crew is one of them. Volleyball. You have a path to you have a reason to invest in soccer at a young age.
But what's counterintuitive is our college system is actually hinders our male athletes. So
right. Because there's no scholarships left over for some of these other men's sports that aren't football, baseball, basketball.
I was going to help you with that too. I think you have to look at it like this. College, like in the United States for soccer, is less than European academy system, okay?
Yeah.
But college for women in America is greater than academy system in Europe for women.
Okay.
You see what I'm saying? Like, I think that the collegiate, like Steven's saying, the collegiate system for women in America is probably better than even their academy system in other countries, especially like Brazil and other places.
Because
like
of
that.
Coaching and stuff like that?
Maybe just availability of places to play.
Because it couldn't...
There's so many colleges that have like decent female soccer, like even Flagler that I went to, tiny postage stamp size of a school, but the women's soccer team was pretty darn good. Stetson, tiny private school, good female soccer team.
But it all comes down to the athlete and obviously the training and the coaching and stuff. And I'm like, you would think that there would be like just like there is in male soccer, that let's say Germany or whatever, like there would be some really high quality women German athletes going into their soccer system, which if you went into an academy system instead of college, you would definitely play more, because here you play less games and you're focusing on school, and soccer is like an extra, you know what I'm saying? Quote unquote, that's what it's supposed to be. Obviously in the football system it's not really that, but so you're playing soccer as your sport, but you're doing the rest of the college thing too. In other countries, they're like, screw the education part of it, just all soccer.
You do that on your own time.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. It's all soccer. Like, that's the only thing we're focusing on.
Right.
So you'd think that if just based on that, then it tells me that maybe we just have a wider pool of athletes to choose from in the United States that are all going to soccer when it comes to it's the most popular women's sport that you could actually make
it's
money
definitely
at.
Right. I think the last thing you said is the most important part. I think it's like, as far as women's sports and pathways to money or to a career, you could do WNBA. What else? Like gymnastics? You'd have to throw that in there, right?
Gymnastics.
Ice skating.
You
throw ice skating in there, but I wouldn't say like softball.
No.
Like you're not going to be able to make money in that, right? Even in ice skating, you probably have to be top of the top.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
And there's not a robust scholarship or academic path for that.
So
women's tennis, but that's
good. Yeah,
and women's golf,
but that's top of the top.
Of the top.
I don't know. You could be a pro, maybe. Like a ladies pro.
Tennis has a lot of spots. Tennis is a good sport for women because, there's an opportunity to have a career there at almost any professional level. Whereas like ice skating, if you're not in the top 4 or 5 in the world, nobody really cares.
So what it tells me is like we have the best athletes in the world. All our male athletes are being basically taken up by a bunch of different sports that are more popular than soccer. So what's left over for soccer isn't good enough from everybody else because every other country's best
well, these
male
companies
athletes
they specialize, right? I mean, they have the thing they focus on. So like Russia is known for figure skating. They that's their thing. We have football and baseball and basketball. I mean, the NBA is the premier basketball league in the world.
Yeah.
Started last night, did it not? Yeah.
Yeah.
The season started last night. See, those Clippers beat the Lakers. That's crazy. Since we're talking about like scholarships and scholarships being absorbed and taken from people, how much do you know about the Lori Loughlin deal?
A good amount.
Because I know that they just added charges yesterday.
Yes.
Not to pivot, but I think it's kind of related.
That's funny that you mentioned that because I was trying to remember what I had on my list, and I don't pull legal stuff normally, but the epiphany finally.
They had to have pulled you in to talk about that, right? Because it's like the fact that they added more charges and the fact that, for those of you that don't know, Lori Loughlin, Fuller House, lied about or actually bribed some people to actually have her daughters, transcripts submitted as members of the crew team in order to get scholarships to UCLA. Is that correct?
USC.
USC. That's right. USC.
Yeah.
So then you got but then she rolled the dice. Then she went to federal court, which every pundit that I saw on like CNN last night was talking about how you absolutely should think extremely carefully. You would know this about rolling the dice in court, A, but B, rolling the dice in federal court. They were making a big deal about how much different that is than just rolling the dice in court. Is that accurate?
There's a reason people say don't make a federal case out of it. That is not a good place to be as a criminal defendant. They're very, very serious charges. The prosecutors are excellent at what they do.
It's 20 years a pop.
I mean,
for both charges,
even before that, they were up to 40 years. They don't score that for what they would likely face as a sentence, but that's the maximum was 40, and they added these new charges, even making it stronger. And you've got to be wondering at this point if Felicity Huffman. If Lori Loughlin should have followed the example of Felicity Huffman, who's now getting out of jail right now, or if not getting out, will be out soon.
I think she's been out, right? Or no? Or
she was doing her 14 days. I think she's getting out early if she's not already out.
And a lot of other parents pled guilty, right?
Yeah.
So you got these other parents that are pleading guilty. Then you got Lori Loughlin, who's basically with her husband Maximo, the the fashion designer.
Yeah.
And they're like, nah, we're going for it. And that the whole story when I was watching it. This particular attorney they had on, their law expert they had on, because I'm not necessarily sure he was an attorney, he said he was like more than 9 times out of 10, which I found it odd that was his phrasing, but he said people will settle and always claim that they are guilty. Like they'll always plead guilty.
Well, the case is so strong.
Right.
And she's in denial. I mean, that's been the news reports is that she's in denial. She doesn't believe she's done anything wrong.
Oh, God.
That it's
Becky's going to jail, isn't
that's
she?
akin to making a donation of a building. How much different is what she's doing than that? So she's failing to appreciate the gravity of what she's facing, and she must be in some sort of denial about the difficulty she's going to face at trial, because I don't know how compelling that's going to be. On the other hand, I hope there's not a perception, and I certainly hope that these defendants aren't being punished because they're trying to have their day in court, and pressure being applied to make that resolve, because we don't want that.
This stinks of this has been going on and goes on everywhere, and then they just they handpicked these celebrities as a way to scare everybody to not do it.
I can see that.
Because I mean, you're making an example. It stinks of making an example out of people.
Yeah.
Because I mean, rich people have been doing this for years. For the longest time.
She's right. That's what they do. Around. They donate buildings. They donate money.
Yeah.
And you know, but the difference is that's not a guaranteed admission. So I read an article a few months ago, and it was about how that can be a factor in admissions, but it's not the sole factor. So, for instance, Harvard, you know, they have an insane endowment. It's $50 billion or more. Who knows?
God.
And part of what they do is when they bring in their students, they know that these aren't just students, these are future millionaires, right?
Yeah.
And so they know that they kind of develop this philanthropical idea that you give back later, and they know that there's going to be giving back, and that's part of the cycle for how they keep up the quality of the institution. And even though they do that, though, a donation does not guarantee admission. It becomes a factor, and it may increase your odds, but it is not a quid pro quo direct result of a donation. So that is how to distinguish it.
Right.
Why not all colleges make it so if you want your kid in there, there's a price that you could pay that guarantees, because then once they get in there, then they have to do the classes like everybody else, and
they don't pass.
And if they fail,
because then only the wealthiest would have admission, and you know that.
But you make the price ultra high, like it's $100K. You know, like
I don't even think that's for a lot of people. That's not enough.
No, but just to get, and then you have to pay all your tuition.
I would say you'd have to make it higher than that.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, we're talking about when we talk about some of these schools, we're talking about donations, 7-figure donations, like millions of dollars.
Yeah. I mean, making $1 million, put a price tag on it.
But if that were the case, then right? no people people without means would not go to Harvard. Period. Well, and they want that diversity of experience too. You know, they want to have, you know, people that aren't uber powerful, elite, or wealthy there.
Well, I mean, Harvard, I think all the super prestigious schools, maybe those are not. But I'm talking, what is this? Southern California or whatever it is. You know, like some state school. Like, why? If you're
because
you
want
you're
people,
business,
because in our system, you know, we want people to be rewarded based on merits, not based on generational advantage.
No, I understand that, but if it's just like you know, you have a couple dozen super rich people that donated $1 million, what does it matter? Like now you have
that's what
you have 12 or
they
20,
do that. Wink, wink.
Yeah, exactly. But you have $24 million now extra going to the school. It benefits everybody, all the other kids, right? You get to hire better teachers and all this stuff. So everybody's getting the benefit out of these rich dodos that want their kid to go to school for no other reason than
we could solve that scholarship problem, right?
Yeah,
because
if we had the extra dough.
Yeah. Because then you'd have.
We have it. I mean, college football is a net positive. That's the biggest moneymaker at some of these universities.
For sure.
It just, it's all, I mean, Lori Loughlin, does anybody give a damn that what she did? No one cares.
Well,
right?
the thing is, justice is supposed to be blind. And, you know.
I mean, it's fascinating now that she's, like Steven said, in denial, and I'm watching her swirl down the drain.
Yeah.
That's kind of fascinating, but do I care that she did that? No. I mean, I could have gone without knowing that, and it wouldn't impact my life at all.
A lot of people are very upset about it.
I do feel sorry for the people that are upset about it that may or may not think that they didn't get into the school of their choice.
What they're thinking is, this kid took my kid's spot.
Yeah.
Nah.
Because my kid
could not be
worked hard and actually did do a sport and did all these things to get into her dream school, and now she's not getting in because this other child was in based on, you know, payoff.
Well, I mean, it doesn't everybody assume that there's like rich people paying off everybody to
but it's,
when you see
when it's in your life, it's a little different. Like I feel like you and I both realize that this happens, and we're like, it doesn't impact our lives. But if, like, my daughter wasn't able to get into X school around here, let's say a dance program that I wanted her in because she wants to do that, and then they were like, no, I'm sorry, all the people that make more money than you already took up all the spots, I'd be a little torqued.
Yeah, that's not supposed to be our system. We're supposed to be an egalitarian democracy that rewards merit. And at the same time, in our justice system, you know, justice is supposed to be blind and not punish some people more than others to make examples of them. So, you know, in both of those instances, you know, that goes against our democratic values. Not that that's what's happening with those parents, but we don't want that perception there either, frankly.
Also, don't she have multi-million-dollar lawyers advising her what to do? I imagine that there's some lawyers. I mean, she got a team. I mean,
ultimately it's her decision.
Yeah, true. But you can give all the advice you want, and
and it's gone so far now. I don't think she can go without. I mean, the
deal may be off the table.
I think she ramped it up to a point. It's almost like I don't think she can go back at this point.
Yeah. Sometimes there is a deal offered by the state, and if that deal is not taken, it is withdrawn.
Well, last week the other parents took it, Steve.
Yeah.
Like last week there were like 5 other families that were wrapped up in the whole thing that were like, yeah, this is getting too crazy. We're out. We're guilty. We'll take whatever. We'll take our lumps. We got to take a break, so let's take a quick break. We got a couple more voicemails. We went way long, so let's take a quick break and come back with more A Gentleman's Guide right after this. It's the Tom and Dan Cruise 2020. This is like, what, our 7th or 8th cruise I think we've done?
Yep.
And if you go to the website, tomanddancruise2020.com, that's the numbers, 2020.com, you can check out. We're going to be sailing April 20th through the 24th, 2020, and it's going to be a heck of a lot of fun.
Absolutely. If you missed this year's cruise, the 2019 cruise, you definitely book the 2020 cruise. Like Daniel said, tomanddancruise2020.com.
It's a Gentleman's Guide to Manliness. Steve Kramer.
Tom.
Dennis. Mr. Dennis.
All right.
Here we go.
So, this is mainly for Dan or Sam, or both of you guys, actually. I was listening to the Gentleman's Guide from, I guess, yesterday, maybe. And I'm just like, I've been listening a bunch lately, actually. And I feel like lately Tom has been, like, uniquely funny. And just kind of like these super witty, like, almost punchlines. And they kind of go unnoticed. And I know a couple of times...
That's my favorite part, by the way, when he says... almost punchlines.
He
Dan, I've
almost
heard you
tells
laugh.
a joke.
Or even like this new, when he's trying to guess a number, or, he's asking someone how much they paid for something. He's like, what is it, 60, 70, 80? Tell me! And he screams. It's freaking funny, and he's kind of performing. Like, that's
kind of performing.
Kind of unique for him.
It's unique for you to be anything other than what? Like, you perform every day. This guy's really giving you the business passive aggressively.
He doesn't do it. But it seems like lately he's kind of doing that more, and I don't know what it is. And so I'm just, 1, curious if you guys have noticed that. And 2, if you have noticed it, I'd love to hear why you think he's doing that. Or what sparked it. What happened recently in his life where he's just in a different mood, it feels like. And it's a really good one. It's really funny and really witty. So it's been fun to...
When did this guy leave? This is a while ago, right?
Later, guys.
Not that long ago. It was like last month.
Yeah. I haven't done the tell me. I don't know.
Do you keep track of your tell me's?
No.
It's been a while since you did a tell me.
It has been a minute. Does it have to do with your mood? Does it have to do with your Adderall? Does it have to do with getting laid the night before? Does it have to do with maybe getting enough sleep?
No. Just I don't know what. Me and Daniel talk about this all the time. We can't put our finger on what is the best opportunity to provide the most comedy improv during a show.
You get in your own head when you're performing?
What,
Steve?
No.
When you're doing like music or something, you can't psych yourself out of that. You've done it so many times, it's just not. It doesn't get.
No.
So we've been getting in our own heads lately, and it's not good.
Yeah. I mean, I get in my head all the time.
You still get nervous always. I mean, there's always always a little.
But you've done some big ass shows.
Even when I go to court, it doesn't matter. It's always a little nervous. I like it. I want it. It's that butterflies make things better.
I tell you what,
harness them.
I harness the butterfly. I like that.
Extreme awkwardness, definitely.
You don't like that.
No.
I'm unaffected by that for some reason.
Like what happened earlier on the show.
It's weird.
Yeah, I'm with Tom.
Well, they're not going to hear that because I'm cutting it all out. But still, we can talk about it. But it's interesting because it doesn't even register.
Now you're making more editing work.
No, that's fine. But that to me, awkwardness to me is like you with we were talking about like. What were we talking about yesterday when you were saying I could totally? I'm unaffected by it.
Like me?
Well, even like being in a relationship, like Tom was saying that if his wife decided, like, hey, I'm going to go out and on the road, I'm traveling for a couple of weeks, and I'm going to, probably have sex with some other dudes and that you wouldn't get jealous. Like, you don't have the jealous thing.
I don't get you. Well, I was going to like the bunny ranch. I was saying like
right.
They're having sex with
Specific,
random dudes.
yeah.
Maybe that I would be more concerned about just based on a weird personality. It's bizarre because we're hypothetical talking about some situations that's so far from reality
would never happen.
that I can't even really give you a correct answer. Because if my wife ever mentioned that, I'd be like, "Are you have a brain tumor? Are you okay?" But if there was like a bunny ranch situation for women, I wouldn't have a problem if she's like, I've always wanted to do this as a bucket list thing. Go to the bunny ranch and have be with some dude that's professional.
Wait,
I would be
are there male prostitutes at the bunny ranch too?
There's some place you can find a male prostitute.
I don't think so, but I'm saying if that situation existed, I wouldn't be like.
I don't really
freak
get
out about
the jealous thing either anymore. I did when I was younger, but I don't know if you guys have ever done this, but I had a relationship devolve, and I was convinced that my jealousy played a role in it, and I banished it. I got rid of it.
Yeah,
totally, eliminated it.
The jealousy.
Yeah. What? How? How'd you do it?
I beat myself up so much over it.
That's like a higher level ability of thinking. That's almost like Eastern culture.
I don't know.
If you can access your brain like that, I can't do that.
But that's a Buddhist thing, is you're supposed to banish, certain thoughts because thoughts become like poison.
That's in a book I'm reading. It's very Eastern to be able to push things.
Thoughts become the action becomes the habit becomes the character, the character is the person.
But since you had those thoughts, they're in there somewhere.
Not anymore. I don't really get them.
But if they were there in the first place...
Everybody gets them. Everybody has bad thoughts, and I do too. I'm not like I'm a very imperfect person. I'm just saying I'm less inclined towards
You're
jealousy.
a relatively positive person, though, I would say.
I mean,
I don't see a lot of negative in you. Not much at all.
Well, I appreciate
Tom,
that.
I don't see a lot of negative in either. Samantha and I, there's a chunk in there. We got a chunk.
Well,
Butler, I can't even register on my meter. He's supposed to knock on the wall. And like he heard that.
My want to live in reality often people perceive as negative. They're like, "Why are you so negative?" I'm like, "Just being real." You
run the risk sometimes because reality sometimes can skew negative.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Yes.
Is that right?
Yeah,
the world is very difficult.
I look and like, all right, these things continue to happen in this way, or most likely, I'm just playing the statistics and being like, if I think a team's going to lose, it's not being negative. I'm basing it on the evidence.
Or are you bracing yourself because you don't want to be let down? Is it a protective mechanism, or is it just realism?
Because
people do that. Oh, they're not going to win. There's no way they're going to win. Secretly, they want them to win, but they're insecure about it. They don't want to be let down, so they're just preparing themselves and bracing.
There's probably a little bit of that. Me and my wife do that all the time. And apparently, it's a thing it actually is not that unhealthy to do because it prepares you for a lot of things. Like you're running scenarios in your head, all types of scenarios, and then some of them are the scenarios where it goes badly, but at least you're mentally prepared for that scenario, lessens the hit,
I mean, I like to think
self-sabotage is worse.
Reaching for more, always striving for more, being okay with failing. That's part of the experience, but if I brace myself too much, I think it can be self-sabotage.
I've seen people self-sabotage so much so that they're like, I'll never get this job. This will never work.
Then it becomes
then they'll go out and get a DUI, and then it'll be like, well, that's the whatever.
When you get negative like that, it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy, right? They basically they follow through with what they visualize. I mean, there's a value, like especially in like certain activities, like if you're going to be in a fight or if, like professional, or if you're going to have a performance or something, there's a benefit to visualizing like the perfection of how you want that to be. And then when you go do it, you've kind of
experienced it already.
Yeah.
Athletes do that all the time. And stuff like I've done it with, as stupid as it is, stunts, where I'm like thinking in my head, run it through my head so many times that if it's like by the time I do it, it's already.
See, if you did it the other way and you're like, oh man, I'm probably going to fall on this, you'd probably fall.
Yeah. But I imagine that's a normal.
Mind is powerful.
But it can affect, especially like in team sports, right? It can affect your attitude. Like if you're on a lesser known team or a team that's not very good.
Yeah.
If you're already accepting the fact that you're going to lose, I don't see how that's going to help you at all if you're not trying to lose.
Yeah, there's a value to the will to win. That where it did not work is for the French in World War II. They had this thing called élan vital, which is basically the will to win, and that was, I kid you not, a lot of the military theory was based on that. That was willful. That was willful blindness, though, and that you can have all the positive vibes you want in the world, but if you're willfully blind and unrealistic, and haven't done the preparation, it's just not going to happen.
The French have had a tough road when it comes to war because a
lot of jokes there.
And I was listening to the
excellent cuisine, though.
Dan Carlin's hardcore history about World War I.
Oh my gosh, that's 6 parts.
Yeah.
That's an intense war. I heard that too.
And
a 13-hour podcast.
Yeah, it's really.
Apparently, there was one particular battle in which they hadn't come to terms with technology and the times.
Like every battle for the first year and a half,
and they were just storming on horseback and with flags and
they had the same uniform that they had 100 years before under Napoleon.
Yeah. So they're bright red, and then
I think he
bright
used
blue.
I think he used the word pageantry.
Yes.
Which is never a good word to use when you're actually trying to kill people.
So they're gold, ornate costuming.
Opulence, man.
They had a armor chest plate, like French blue uniform.
Beautiful.
Like feathers, feather plume within their hat, and a saber.
A golden helm.
But it ruined a lot of the honor and romanticism around being a warrior, which it had kind of been the historical norm.
Well, Juan in our Twitch chat room is saying Napoleon did pretty well. He did, but what Tom is referencing, and I think I remember maybe even listening to this, was that, but they were just out-teched. The technology of the battle,
World War I.
German machine guns just mowed them,
just cutting the horse's legs off. Wasn't that something like that?
They were just had a line of machine guns that was just mowing
when you're hiding behind the other battle,
thousands of people down.
Yeah, when you're hiding behind the other bodies for protection from machine gun fire, that's probably a bad sign.
They had literally no chance whatsoever. Like artillery and machine guns just annihilated the whole army.
That's everybody. I mean, basically that they had 19th century war theory that they're executing in the 20th century world.
Yeah. And it was a rough go at it.
Yeah.
And then after
that, World War II though they had the élan, the will to win.
Yeah, and then but they remembered World War I, and then they were hesitant, and then that's caused all this.
Get your confidence back.
But what's interesting though is I can understand.
They're we had the balls back in World War I, and they got mowed down crazy.
They won, but I can understand why they would believe in the élan because they had that within the culture. I mean, Napoleon is the guy that said an army of sheep led by a lion will always defeat an army of lions led by a sheep.
That makes
basically
sense.
That vision, leadership, and will to win matters.
Although I'd put that to test, and my army of lions will just kill all the sheep.
I'm with Napoleon.
one dodo sheep leading the army of lions. They're still the lions. I'm like, okay, well, we'll eat the leader too, and all the
sheep. we got to get out of here. Let's plug some stuff. Anything?
I'm trying to think.
Bad Business Beer Fest is coming up.
Yeah.
So we'll have that.
November 23rd, and then Sofa and Suds are 24th. There are Sanford couch races. Both events are free. Show up at Bad Business definitely before 2 to get your sample cup.
Yep.
But just because we want to give 2,500 out before we start sampling at 2, we got live music and then the couch races the next day that me and Daniel will be hosting.
Sofa and Suds is super awesome. OneFirmForLife.com. Are you bringing that back? Bringing the .com back?
I think I'm going to record.
I've heard some different variations. I've heard some more mellow .coms. I like the traditional. I like the aggressive.com.
Well, it gets a reaction. Some people hate it.
It sticks in your mind. It sticks in your brain a little bit. So if you have a legal need, Stephen and his team can help you out. Anything else?
That's it.
Guys, we will see you next week.